Some stories don't need many words. They live in the wind, in the snow, and in wings that once seemed broken. Today, we invite you to listen to the quiet journey of a young swan, left behind in the freezing winter, yet determined to fly again, in its own way. This is Wings Against the Wind, a story not just about nature, but about resilience, survival, and the beauty of simply being. In a quiet valley tucked between northern hills, there was a lake where swans gathered. Each year when the sky turned crisp and the winds carried a chill from the north, the swans would prepare for their long journey south, where the winters were gentler and the water never froze. The days before the migration were always full of life. The flock would stretch their wings, rise higher with each flight, their silhouettes glowing red under sunsets that looked like fire on the water. Among them was a young swan, one who had never flown far before. It watched the older swans with wide eyes, mesmerized by the graceful V-shaped formations in the sky. In its heart, a silent promise formed. This year, I will fly. I will soar with them, far and free. But every dream carries a test. The day of flight came. The wind rose early, sharp and pure. The flock took off in waves, wings beating the cold air with powerful grace. The young swan joined them. Its first time leaving the surface of the lake. Its first time tasting the vastness of the sky. The wind slapped its face. Its chest tightened. Every flap of its wings made its heart pound harder. But it kept going, trying to stay in line. Hours passed in flight. Then, over a low valley, a sudden crack shattered the air. Pain exploded through its wing. One side collapsed. The wind spun it sideways. The sky tilted. No one turned back. The flock kept flying forward. The young swan fell, like a leaf ripped from a tree. It didn't die, but when it opened its eyes, the world was no longer the same. No sound of wings, no warmth of its kind. Only rough earth, dried grass, and a sky that no longer welcomed flight. It lay there for hours. The injured wing throbbed, but worse than the pain was the feeling of being left behind. Swans are not built to live alone, especially not with winter on the way. The first few nights, it trembled from the cold. The lake it once knew was far away now. No familiar call, no soft feathered body to lean into, just wind and silence. The days that followed were brutal. Its wing remained weak. Food was hard to find. Everything was frozen or hidden. Each night it curled beneath a rock, trying to hold on to whatever warmth its body still had. Many times, it thought about giving up, to lie still, sleep deeply, and return to the earth. But somehow, the sun still rose. The wind still blew. And each morning, when the first light touched its feathers, it woke up and chose to try again. Somewhere deep inside, something still whispered, "As long as you breathe, there is still hope." When snow covered everything, the forest grew quiet. The world turned still beneath its white blanket. The swan, no longer as young, no longer as soft, was still alive. Thinner now, its feathers rougher. But its eyes were sharper, deeper. It had learned how to scrape snow for dried leaves, learned to nest in tree roots to shield itself from the wind, learned when to move, when to rest. Then one cold morning, when the horizon burned orange, it stretched its wings. The once broken wings still ached, but it opened, it held. The swan walked out into the snowy field. There were no other birds, no audience, only the sky and the wind. Swans don't usually fly alone, but this swan wasn't like the others anymore. It took a running start. Wings flapped, each beat painful, but familiar. With every push, it remembered its dream. The wind pushed against its chest. Snow burst beneath its feet. No cheers, no formation. Still, it flew up. Above the trees, beyond the hills that once protected it. The wind blew hard, cold and wild, but not enough to pull it down, because inside its chest burned something stronger, the belief that it could. All winter, the swan stayed. It didn't fly south. It didn't follow warmth. Instead, it stayed. And flew each day, just a little, around the trees, over the frozen streams. Each time it flew, the wind grew harsher, but its wings grew stronger, its spirit steadier. It didn't need to fly far. It didn't need to be the highest. It only needed to know it was flying for itself. Spring came late that year. As the snow melted, the lake slowly reappeared under the mist. And one morning, far off in the sky, the flock returned, wings sliced through the clouds. One by one, they landed on the water, sending ripples across the surface. The swan, the one they had left behind, stood quietly at the water's edge. It didn't cry. It didn't run to them. It simply watched and smiled, because it understood something they didn't. Sometimes being left behind is a gift. It had learned to survive, not as a follower, but as something freer. Since then, every winter, there's been a swan, flying alone through snowy skies, not lost, not broken, chosen. A swan who stays. A swan who flies against the wind. A swan who believes that sometimes just existing is beautiful enough. Thank you for listening. If you love nature, value life's quiet moments, and want to discover more emotional journeys like this, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell so you won't miss the next story.